Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes, now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox, clean feels good.
Thus you should say to them, my little finger is thicker than my father's loins.
I'm going to assume that means what I think it means.
It does. He's holding up his pinky and going, this is bigger than my dad's Johnson. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And you're listening to the Data Over Dogma podcast, where we increase public access to the academic study of the Bible and religion, and we combat that pernicious spread of misinformation about the same. How are things today, Dan?
Things are good. Yeah, we've got a fascinating one. This I'm looking forward to this because the comments are about to get unhinged up in her. Yeah. If you don't watch our show on YouTube, which is totally great, most of our the people who partake of our wares don't. You might want to head over there and just see what the people are saying, because people might get riled up, because we're going to talk polygamy, and yes. Dan's a Mormon, so ipso facto problems or something. Historically speaking.
Yes.
And so, yeah, we're going to talk about that in the first half of the show. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to get to one of the great practitioners of polygamy, but
probably
we're not
one of the
that.
most famous. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to do some Solomon stuff. We're not going to talk about his polygamy in the second half. We might talk about it in the first half, probably.
Probably will.
But yeah, we're going to talk about the end of his reign and the beginning of his son, and all kinds of other historical stuff surrounding that, or ahistorical, or whatever. So it'll actually be a lot of fun, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
But first, let's dive in with taking issue. And the issue we're taking, as we said, is polygamy, but more specifically, I think, polygyny.
Polygyny, yes.
Because polygamy is, as the Google has told me, is the practice of marriage with either multiple men, multiple husbands, or multiple wives.
Right.
And I don't think that first thing is what the Bible has anything to say on.
No, not so much, no. So, yeah, we're talking about polygyny, or plural marriage is another more English term. I don't know.
Right.
But is also unclear, but generally is referring to a man taking multiple wives. And this is in the news right now because, well, as of recording.
Right.
Anyway. Who knows what the news
we may have been
like.
scooped by a couple weeks on this one, but that's okay.
There's a pastor in like Missouri named Rich Tidwell who posted back in June on his blog about basically coming out as polygamous.
Yeah.
He has 2 wives and 8 children between the 2 of them. Some of them have been adopted. But this, for whatever reason, people have only become aware of it recently, at the beginning of November. And
Somebody went, oh, wait a minute. Wait, what?
And so it has caused a bit of a firestorm on social media as evangelicals are swooping in to condemn this pastor who posted a biblical defense of polygamy on his blog. And I want to talk about the argument that he makes, and then talk about whether or not I think it's supported by the data.
Okay.
But yeah, and certainly, hijinks will ensue. There's plenty of opportunity for all kinds of comedy and other things.
I'm just going to put a marker down now. Me being the ignorant guy on the podcast, I am definitely putting a marker down for the Bible supports polygamy quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Yes.
It may not be across the board. It may not be a total support every which where, but there's a lot of polygamy in the Bible, and sanctioned polygamy at that.
Exactly, yeah. And that is where, and that's one of the things that he starts off with. There are 3 passages that he points to from the Hebrew Bible that he suggests indicates God's sanctioning of polygamy, God's approval of polygamy.
Sure.
And I think I think a couple of them at least make good sense. One of them I'm not so convinced by, and that would be the earliest one chronologically, canonically, Genesis 30 verse 18, and this is where we have Jacob, and Jacob gets tricked into marrying the wrong woman and has to work for another 7 years. And we've got an episode where we talk about
that was a
this.
fun trick.
Yeah.
What a great trick that was. Sorry, you said this was Genesis what?
Chapter 30, verse 18.
Okay.
And so the woman he was tricked into marrying, Leah, said, God has given, obviously this is NRSV UE, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the translation. God has given me my hire because I gave my maid to my husband. So she named him Issachar. And hire here is a word that means like recompense, wages, payment.
Right.
So God has given me my wages because I gave my maid to my husband. And maid there, I'm pretty sure, is the word for, maidservant or a female enslaved person.
Okay.
So Leah's like, here, hubby, have this other wife. And
then God rewarded her for that.
That is what Leah is saying, that God has rewarded her for making that sacrifice of giving her husband another wife. So Jacob is just racking up wives.
Yeah.
And the 12 sons of Israel / Jacob come from a variety of different women. So that's a suggestion that, at least according to Leah, God was happy with this, rewarded her for that.
Right.
Another one that I think is a little better argument, has a little better case to make, is in 2 Samuel. And this is 2 Samuel chapter 12. And verse 7 and 8 are the important ones. And this is where Nathan is chewing David out. So you remember the "you are the man" speech. And here he says, "You are the man." Oh, hey, there it is. "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I anointed you king over Israel, and I rescued you from the hand of Saul." And then verse 8 says, "I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your bosom, and gave you the house of Israel and of Judah, and if that had been too little, I would have added as much more." So here we have God, ostensibly, through the prophet Nathan, declaring that God gave David many, 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 many wives.
Right.
Basically, he said, Saul's wives, they're now your wives.
Right.
And,
among other, various cash and prizes.
Yes, there are other prizes as well. And and the argument that I've seen made is that when it says gave them into your bosom, the idea here is I transitioned them to your protection. Yeah. In other words, they were living in Saul's household, and now you're responsible for them, which is nonsense because one, it's like, I gave you all this cool stuff. Oh, and also this burden.
This responsibility.
Yes, which is very clearly not what God is saying here. God is saying, I gave you all these women to have sex with.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And so very clearly that represents God prophetically as not only endorsing but facilitating plural marriage, including women who had been with another man, which is a little peculiar. Then there's another one that I think is might even be a little stronger. 2 Chronicles 24. And we're looking at verses, and we can start at verse 1, but we're going to go to verse 3. Verse 1 says, Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba. Joash did what was right in the sight of the Lord all the days of the priest Jehoiada. And then verse 3 says, Jehoiada got 2 wives for him, and he became the father of sons and daughters.
Okay.
Pretty clearly, the author is suggesting that if Jehoiada got 2 wives for Joash, and Joash did everything that was right in the sight of the Lord all the days of the priest Jehoiada,
and Jehoiada is the priest,
is
God's representative or whatever.
That is sanctioned, endorsed by God.
Right.
So,
and that's some New Testament stuff, because I think when we talk about this, that's gonna it tapers off towards the new, like the support for polygamy's, I thought, tapers
yes,
off.
It does tapers off.
But so I'm actually surprised to hear that. Yeah, that sounds like it's not there. There's certainly no full-throated condemnation happening of polygyny.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Although there is a passage that some people will point to as an indicator that polygamy was not what God wanted. And this is a weird one. Again, it's an interpretation that is forced and is nonsensical. But Leviticus 18:18 from the NRSV UE, and you shall not take a woman as a rival to her sister, uncovering her nakedness while her sister is still alive. So the idea here is obviously, hey, if you've already got a wife, don't marry her sister also.
Okay.
That's a problem.
Again, so, that casts a weird light on the Jacob story.
Yeah. But and some folks think Leviticus 18 and 20 were actually, these laws are actually following the narrative of Genesis. And so the idea is they're making laws basically to address all of the circumstances and situations that are happening in Genesis. And so this could be precisely saying, hey, what happened with Jacob and Leah and Rachel? Yeah, maybe don't do that. That's
not for you. That was for him, not you.
But the argument is that this does not mean, this is not only limited to a biological sister, but just don't take any woman as who could become a rival to a first wife. Meaning polygamy, no good. And that reading isn't supported by anything. That's
right.
That's silly.
Yeah.
But probably the most common objection, and you know what? I don't even know if Tidwell actually brings this objection up in his blog post. Seems like he should, but I don't think he does. I don't think he engages the argument. Genesis 2:24, which we've talked about many times in the past. Thus a man shall leave his father and his mother's house and cleave unto his woman, and the two of them shall be one flesh.
Right.
And this is taken as a prescription of what God's pattern, plan, ideal for marriage is. In other words, it's supposed to be one man, one woman, one vote. But as we've discussed before, it's clearly not a prescription of proper marriage. It's just a descriptive etiology of pair bonding and independent kinship units.
Right.
It's not saying it must be one man and only one woman, because obviously the rest of Genesis is chock full of Israel's heroes and even precursors marrying multiple women. And so the authors are very clearly okay with polygyny, and so are obviously not condemning that. So there are a bunch of passages in the Hebrew Bible that just outright endorse, if not just condone, polygamy.
Yeah.
Things start to change when we get to Greco-Roman period Judaism. And not because of the Bible, but in spite of the Bible. It's because of Greek philosophy and Greco-Roman social conventions and mores. Because while the Greeks and the Romans were pretty socially loose, maybe, you wanted to, fidelity within marriage might not have been at the top of their list of priorities.
Right.
But they did find polygyny to be a practice of weirdos. They didn't really like it.
Right.
And then there were Greek philosophical treatises that kind of talk about the structure of society and things like that, and the household and how it's all supposed to work. And that endorsed monogamy as well. Although, slaves were entirely permitted and everything like that.
Totally fair game.
Yeah. And
a side piece here and there is obviously fine.
Right. So this rubbed off on Greco-Roman period Judaism. And so they didn't come out and say, we no longer accept polygamy, right. But it was less and less common, so that you didn't really see it happening because it wouldn't have been acceptable within this Greco-Roman context. And so by the time of the New Testament, polygyny, we agreed before filming that we were going to use polygyny and not polygamy.
I mean, we could say polygamy. It's because most times when someone uses the word polygamy, they're talking about the practice of marrying multiple wives, because that's been the only one, the only thing that's been practiced in for most of what is commonly known in human history. There may be some polyandrous societies, but I've never heard of them.
Yes, I think they mostly exist in comic books, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. But if you do know of some, by all means, let us know.
Yeah.
And so polygyny is not really that big a deal, but you do have some places where it seems to be poo-pooed, or if not condemned. So in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it seems to not approve of polygyny.
Right.
New Testament has no outright condemnation of polygyny at all. It just seems to have been the norm that you only marry one wife at a time. The one exception would be 1 Timothy 3:2. Now, 1 Timothy, pastoral epistle, not Paul.
Okay.
This is pseudo-Pauline. This is after Paul's death. This is somebody trying to appropriate Paul's authority by pretending to be Paul. But we have in this passage, the author is explaining what is required to be an overseer or a bishop, and says that he must be a man of one woman, which is probably intended to address fidelity within marriage and then not remarrying after either divorce or the death of a spouse. Because there was actually, and you see this in Matthew, that if a man divorces his wife for anything other than sexual infidelity, that he commits adultery by marrying another woman, and causes her to commit adultery if she marries another man. So, you weren't supposed to get remarried. You have one wife, and that's your wife, and that's it.
You used yours. You used your one. You're
you
done.
ran out. Yeah. But it does seem to suggest that they would not approve of a polygynous marriage for a leader. And a lot of people try to insist that when it says overseer or bishop, that means pastor, but it doesn't. Pastor is only mentioned once in all of the New Testament, and that is in Ephesians 4.
What's the difference?
Well, they're different offices within the church, and they're entirely different words in Greek. But there are folks who try to make the case that there's a passage in Acts that talks about elders and overseers kind of being the same, and talking about how they are to pasture or pastor the flock. So it uses verbs associated with pastoring to refer to them, and so people will say, see, that means a pastor is just the same thing. But the Gospel of John uses the verb pastoring to refer to an apostle as well as Jesus, as well as Jesus's followers. So like that, the use of that verb by itself doesn't mean this is a reference to the ecclesiastical office of a pastor, which again is only known from Ephesians. Ephesians, also probably not Paul. That's not one of the outright spurious epistles, but one of the disputed epistles. So,
but
anyway,
also probably a later thing. Like it sounds to me like that's when the organization chart has started to appear.
Yes. The org chart is showing up in emails and irritating everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a more developed hierarchy, a more developed institution where they've got these offices, and Paul would not have been operating with those institutions anyway.
Dan, I don't know about you, but I enjoy a high-end mattress, but don't necessarily enjoy sky-high price tags. I know you love your mattress. What model is yours?
I got the Plank Firm Luxe. I got to have the firmest mattress I can. I've got a back that has been struggling for 15 years now, and this is one of the only things that makes it so I can get out of bed and jump to work. And I also got the Glaciotex covers just because I sleep hot. I just run hot in general, and this helps keep me cool throughout the night, keeps me comfortable. I don't have to worry about waking up in a pool of sweat.
Yeah, it is so vital to keep yourself comfortable all through the night, to give yourself the best shot at a good night's sleep that you can get so that your whole day goes a little bit better.
Brooklyn Bedding is one of the few mattress brands endorsed by the American Chiropractic Association for spinal alignment and back health. Plus, they're 100% fiberglass free for peace of mind. And they also offer a 120-night comfort trial. Love it, or they'll help you return it or swap it hassle-free.
Go to brooklynbedding.com and use our promo code DOGMA at checkout to get 30% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. That's brooklynbedding.com and promo code DOGMA for 30% off site-wide. Support our show and let them know we sent you after checkout. brooklynbedding.com, promo code DOGMA.
Say hello to the all-new Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do so much more for you. Need tickets to see your favorite artist? Craving your comfort restaurant? Just sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. It learns your style, anticipates what's next, and makes it happen across Echo, Fire TV, and more. Learn more at amazon.com/new Alexa.
But anyway, 1 Timothy 3:2, even though it probably is not directly addressing polygyny, it would preclude polygynous marriages, even though it is also just about the standards for someone who wants to hold that position. It's not necessarily saying any follower of Jesus cannot do this, but it probably would have been a standard that became pretty widespread. So we do have one passage that does seem to prohibit polygyny in the New Testament, and Rich Tidwell is not ignorant of that passage. So he makes an argument for why 1 Timothy 3:2 does not prohibit polygyny. He says, in 1 Timothy 3:2, Paul utilizes the Greek word mia, which we translated as one in English. And he talks a little bit about this in another passage. Although mia may translate as an indefinite one or a, as in the indefinite article, in the context of marriage in 1 Timothy 3:2, mia means ordinal, first. If Paul intended to communicate a man must have numeral one wife to be in ministry, he would have employed the word his, as he did in 1 Timothy 5:9, the same epistle, because his explicitly means numeral one. Mia must be used in 1 Timothy 3:2 as a grammatical rule. Read my response titled The Mia and He Saga. Therefore, 1 Timothy 3:2 ought to be translated, the husband of his first wife. Okay. As Paul, like Jesus, is preventing hypergamy and divorce. In other words, he still has to be married to his first wife.
Should I make a guess as to your response to this?
Let's see.
Because I don't know anything about the grammar or words of Greek, but I'm going to guess that you're going to object to his explanation of how these words are used.
Yes, it's nonsensical. He says a man who divorces his first wife to marry another, as Jesus prohibits in Matthew 19:19, also Malachi 2:15-16, is not fit for eldership in the church. Paul is not addressing polygyny, nor disqualifying the patriarchs from ministry. He is prohibiting hypergamy and serial monogamy among the elders of the church. And then he goes on to say something interesting. Moreover, do we truly believe that if Abraham, Jacob, or David resurrected, a possibility according to Matthew 27:52-53, they would not be permitted to hold office or preach in the church? These polygamous men wrote or are featured in many of our holy scriptures, but we wouldn't give them a microphone today? What utter nonsense. I believe the answer to these questions lies in Romans 11:23. These polygamous men of the Bible were called by God and retained their offices despite their having several wives. And I saw somebody who responded to that particular argument by barking that yes, absolutely, they would be prohibited from being pastors, and they went on to say even God prohibited David from building the temple because he was a man of war, and so God can withhold certain offices and responsibilities from people. He didn't address Jacob or Abraham, but I think that's an interesting argument. And yeah, the 1 Timothy 3:2, the notion that that Mia and Hees really carry these significant differences that must be maintained context independent doesn't really work.
Okay.
It can be used that way, but it doesn't mean we have to use it.
Well, if it can be used that way, then there's some legitimacy maybe to his argument.
Well, there's it's basically the you can't prove it's false argument.
Right.
It's possible. We're ginning up that tiny little sliver of not impossible.
Right.
But yeah, there are no scholars who read it that way. But it is.
He does seem like he has a motivation, a specific motivation.
Little bit of a motivation.
Reading. I feel like I feel like the most interesting part of this whole thing is that if you want to use the Bible to justify polygyny, whatever, that seems easy. That's it. Like, he's not wrong.
Yeah, not as easy as defending slavery, but certainly easier than defending same-sex intercourse or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, there is ample evidence that it was considered okay by God. And this is another thing that he talks about. According to the Bible, God does not change.
Right.
So if God is okay with polygamy in the Hebrew Bible, God is okay with polygamy in the New Testament. And this is something that is a bit of a problem for the folks who want to understand the Bible to be condemning polygamy. Why would God allow it in one part of the Bible and then prohibit it in another if God does not
allow
change?
it in the most important figures in the Bible?
And condone and even endorse it. Yeah. And so it does raise the question of we have other not we as in me, but a lot of these folks assert certain dogmas about God's unchanging nature and about the universality of the moral principles on which the gospel is founded.
Yeah.
How do you get around that? And that is why I think you have a lot of folks who try to argue that God actually prohibited or didn't like polygyny, just tolerated it. Like, I'm not sure about this, but I'll see where this is going. And so people will bring up the argument that throughout the Hebrew Bible, polygynous marriages are characterized by conflict and problems. And it's like every relationship in the Hebrew Bible is characterized by tension and conflict.
Every relationship in humanity is characterized by, like, I don't know if you've had a spouse or a relationship, but you're going to have conflict. That is that's a guarantee.
And they're like, bad things always happen. It's like, Adam and Eve are a monogamous marriage. The worst thing happened.
Right.
And you've got all kinds of circumstances. Like everybody who has a brother in the Hebrew Bible runs into all kinds of problems.
Right.
It's like, does that mean that having a brother is frowned upon? God's like, I don't know about this one.
Let's get him.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting that the Bible is so obviously explicit about this and so overwhelmingly, so loaded with it, as example after example. And I suppose we should bring up Solomon, who he's putting up Wilt Chamberlain numbers with,
and that works on two different levels. So,
well, we might get to the rest of that, but yeah, I mean, what does he have? 700 wives and 300 concubines or something like, according to the thing. So and there's no part of that that's condemned. There are things that the Bible's like, oh, Solomon wasn't good about this or whatever, but it's not that. Well, that's except that they're foreign wives. And
yes, they're foreign wives, and they influence him towards, and people will bring that up as well. Well, look what happened to Solomon with all them foreign wives. It's like, well, he still had more than one local wife, and that didn't cause any problems. God wasn't like, I'm not too hot on that other thing either.
And his dad was loaded up too.
Yeah,
David had multiple wives as well.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's just the thing that's weird to me is that you can look at this book, you can read all of those stories of all of these men who have all of those wives, and then because your culture obviously is not okay with that. My parents were both LDS historians. They were both historians of Mormonism, and so I'm fairly familiar with Mormon history, and of course, infamously, the Mormons, the early Mormons, and then later fundamentalist offshoots of Mormonism practiced polygyny.
Yes,
and the way that the world,
I live in a city where one of them ran for mayor.
Yeah. I
can see their compounds from my front yard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. So it's still around, but the way historically that that American culture came crashing down on these people for this thing, and on one hand, I get it in the sense that I think that the polygyny of Mormonism creates a wild power imbalance. It is something that is entered into often unwillingly by the women, and it is often forced upon women, and the way it is practiced is not consensual, and therefore there's no way to excuse it. But how did this country come down so incredibly hard? Like, literally, people were saying the dual barbarism. I don't remember the exact quote, but they were equating slavery and polygamy as being the two barbaric practices of the United States of America.
Yeah. Reynolds versus the United States from 1879.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And a lot of people have been like this. They didn't really have that good of an argument because it was mainly just like, this is characteristic of barbaric people.
Right.
And I think also said it always leads to abuse or something like that.
Right. Which I think it's plain to see. If you watch any reality TV, you know that it doesn't necessarily lead to abuse. I never actually watched a single episode of Sister Wives, but It seems like he probably wasn't abusive. I don't know. Would he wouldn't get to keep his reality show if he was abusive.
I didn't watch any of it either. I don't know. But yeah, I think
I couldn't get past his hairstyle, to be perfectly honest. And I'm not one to talk. I know that. I just think
I wasn't gonna say anything.
I just think that it's really weird that that Bible believing people purporting to be Bible believers, are so vehement against this. Like, I get why you're vehement against slavery. That makes sense to me. And I get why you'd be vehement against a practice that was entered into against a woman's will. That I understand as well.
Yeah.
But presuming that adults enter into an arrangement of their own free will and with their consent, full consent and approval, I don't know how biblically minded people condemn that. I don't get it.
Well, we've already seen that folks who would identify as biblically minded people have a way of massaging what the Bible is minding them about. So, but it's interesting within Judaism, because I've mentioned before, one of the reasons that Christianity and Judaism deviated so significantly from each other is because Christianity really leaned into Greek philosophy and the Greco-Roman world, whereas Judaism tried to distinguish itself from it and rejected Greek philosophy and to some degree. It was still quite influential, but they were like, Septuagint, not for us. We're going back to the Hebrew. We're going back to halakhic legislation, all this stuff. And so for centuries after the split from Christianity, while Christianity is rejecting polygamy, Judaism was kind of like, we're a little uncomfortable with this. We can't really find a reason to object in the Hebrew Bible, but we just don't like it. So like you have Josephus referring to it as an ancestral custom in one of his texts. But it's like around 1000 CE when Greek philosophy and just philosophy in general becomes a lot more influential within Judaism, that you finally have some Jewish philosophers who are like, yeah, no polygamy, we're just outlawing it. It's just not good. So they had a longer time coming down as firmly as they ultimately did against polygamy. But yeah, it does seem like something that people appeal to all the time. People appeal to the Hebrew Bible and God's design for marriage as what should be governing how marriage works, and except when it comes to that part, when they're like, right. And then they'll go to Genesis 2:24, and I just want to be clear, because people are going to accuse me of being a dirty Mormon who is just trying to defend polygamy. Right. You could not be more mistaken about my position on marriage. So as frequently as I have to remind people that I'm doing my darndest to just represent the data and the scholarly consensus, that's what I'm doing here. Yeah. And this should in no way, shape, or form whatsoever be misconstrued as me defending polygamy because I like it. I have already been accused of that countless times just because I posted a video a few days ago about this. So
of the two of us, I'm the one who's more likely to come to the defense of a non-traditional marriage / love practices. Yes, I suppose. I don't support polygyny, religiously mandated polygyny. I certainly don't support that.
Certainly not. Yeah. And I think that's one of the big issues is if it is something that is religiously sanctioned, then I think it does pressure folks, particularly young folks growing up in that kind of society, that conditions them to think this is my role, this is what I have to do. I mean, you already have women on Twitter saying we need to repeal the 19th Amendment only because the men around them in their lives and kind of in control of their worldview are conditioning them and convincing them that they
Right.
need to defend that particular limit to their agency. And I think the last thing we need is a bunch of folks raising up young girls to believe that they have their only goal in life ought to be becoming a polygamous wife of another Tidwell or whomever.
Well, yeah, and too often in those situations, as we see with fundamentalist Mormons currently and historical Mormons back in the 1800s and early 1900s, when it's culturally, especially when it's shrouded in cultural shame, and becomes this insular thing, really bad practices crop up. So, 14-year-old women being forcibly married off to 50-something-year-old men, that sort of thing. It's
because God said so.
Yeah, it's Epstein level, not okay. So yes.
And we, as of recording, there's been a bunch of emails that have dropped, and I'm sure that the dust will have settled to some degree, unless more emails are dropping.
Yeah. Who knows? It's raining Epstein letters at this point.
Good grief.
Okay, let's erase our brains from that for a little bit, and let's actually move on to our chapter and verse.
This holiday, discover meaningful gifts for everyone on your list at Kay. Not sure where to start? Our jewelry experts are here to help you find or create the perfect gift, in-store or online. Book your appointment today and unwrap love this season, only at Kay.
This episode is brought to you by Blink. Blink Friday starts now with up to 65% off Blink Smart Security. Check on your pets all season long with new Blink Mini 2K Plus cameras. See your gifts arrive in head-to-toe view with Blink Video Doorbell. Ready to use right out of the box. Just unwrap Blink and go. From pet parents to jet setters to busy families, Blink Friday deals have your holidays covered. Shop now at Amazon.com/Blink.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Jay Kelly, the new film from Academy Award nominee Noah Baumbach. George Clooney stars as an actor confronting his past and present on a journey of self-discovery, alongside Adam Sandler as his devoted manager. Critics are calling it a declaration of love to the chaotic art of filmmaking, with the Wall Street Journal praising it as a transcendent comedy drama. Watch Jay Kelly December 5th, only on Netflix.
And the chapter, I guess what we're going to do is we're going to get to 1 Kings chapter 11.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. It starts out with talking about the marriages of Solomon, and the fact that he loved many women. Many foreign women. That was the problem. It wasn't the many women. It was the fact that they were Moabite and Ammonite and Edomite and Sidon and Hittite women.
Yes.
And not only was he in love with these women, but he was building shrines to their gods on the hills. So that's sort of the 700 princesses and 300 concubines. Princesses, okay. I have seen wives in translations. But
what does it say? It says nashim, which would mean women or wives in Hebrew. Why does it say princess?
NRSVUE. Are you getting
Sharot.
sassy?
No. It says wives, and then it says sarot, which would be the feminine plural of sar, which would be a prince or a noble.
Oh, okay.
A nobleman. So yeah. Princesses and 300 concubines.
So wait, it says among his wives were 700 princesses.
Yeah.
The non-princesses, probably there's a couple hundred more of those. Who knows? Again, it's those Chamberlain numbers.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and who knows how many trombones and the camels. Yes, June, love the camels. I see how I was able to bring in not just the Music Man, but also Aladdin.
Yeah, man, you went all over the map with that. you encircled the globe twice on that one.
But it says when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David. Kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
And David kind of got the raw end of the heart.
David fudged the rules a little bit here and there, but sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the main thing is, and this is something that we've talked about. One of the things that we need to remember here is that, and one of the things that was never talked about in my religious upbringing was the fact that these other gods that Solomon was kind of falling prey to were real gods.
They believed them to be, yes.
They believed them to be real gods. So this is like really treading on Adonai's turf here.
Yeah. And you have 1 Kings 11 is interesting for so many reasons. Verse 5 refers to Solomon following Astarte, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites.
Right.
So Milcom was a patron deity of the Ammonites. But then you go down to verse 7, and it says, Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab. We've talked about Chemosh before. And for Molech, the abomination of the Ammonites. So we've just seen it was Milcom who's the abomination of the Ammonites, and now we have
that's right.
Molech, the abomination of the Ammonites. This is a scribal corruption.
Okay.
There has been a change where Milcom and Molech, the only difference in written Hebrew anciently, is one letter, the M on the end of the word, the name. Okay. And so obviously the mem has just fallen out from the word Milcom. Yeah. And so a lot of people use this to argue that Molech was recognized as a deity. And Molech was not a deity. Molech was just a type of sacrifice. And then later Greek translators and later folks confused it for the name of a deity that
so we're saying that Milcom is the actual deity and Molech was an incorrect
corruption. A textual oopsie.
I do think that Milcom would be a good name for a software company.
It
just sounds right. I don't know. Milcom and Molech would be an interesting name for a
buddy comedy
firm. A buddy comedy. I love it. The two abominations of the Ammonites. I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So let's go on with the story here.
I'm going to get down to verse 23.
Okay, sounds good.
We have some adversaries raised against Solomon. Rezin, son of Eliada, who had fled from his master, King Hadadezer of Zobah.
You just wanted to say that.
Whenever on like The Simpsons, they always have Ned Flanders saying some kind of nonsensical name from the Bible. This is one that I would have, if I didn't know this passage, I would have been like, they made that up. That's not in the Bible.
King Hadadezer
of Zobah.
Hadadezer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's just Hadadezer. Hadad was the name of a deity. Ezer just means help of. So help of Hadad. Hadad's helper. And
while we're talking about names, because it's going to come up, what does the suffix Boam mean? Because we're going to get a Jeroboam and a what's the son's name?
Jeroboam and Rehoboam.
Right.
Yes. So the on the end is not clear. It could mean people. Means people. It could mean uncle. Like there's a form of this word that has reference to a male ancestor. Could mean an uncle god. It could be a deformation of Jerubbaal.
Oh,
so Jeroboam, Jerubbaal, they're spelled the same except for the mem on the end instead of a lamed. So at least when it comes to Jeroboam, it's not clear what exactly is going on with the on the end of the name. Now, when it comes to Rehoboam, this is more likely to be like the Rachav means to be wide. And this is a word that can mean street in Hebrew. So it might be this uncle god has made wide, or maybe it's the people have become extensive. They've spread out.
Okay.
So
Uncle God on the street is what I'm going with.
Uncle God on the street. Yeah. So that.
All right. Sorry. I took us off down a rabbit trail.
No worries. But we have Jeroboam, and this is an interesting story. So anyway, a lot of people made trouble in Solomon's neighborhood. They were up to no good.
Yeah.
And then Jeroboam shows up, and he's like a day laborer, and he's coming down to Jerusalem, and he's helping out with stuff. And verse 28 says, when Solomon saw that the young man was industrious, he gave him charge over all the forced labor of the house of Joseph. And so forced labor, this would be corvée labor. This is the king of Judah requiring that the people from the northern kingdom, who would have been subjugated to Judah, require they send folks on a certain schedule to come do forced labor. So this is not really slavery. It's something a bit different. And then Jeroboam's leaving Jerusalem. Work day's over. He's going home. And a prophet, Ahijah, the Shilonite, found him on the road. And he had a new garment on, and he gives it to Jeroboam, but tears it into 12 pieces. Which is kind of like, cool, thanks. What?
Thanks for the shirt. I guess it's rags now?
Yeah. He says, take for yourself 10 pieces. For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, see, I am about to tear the kingdom from the hand of Solomon and will give you 10 tribes. One tribe will remain his for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city that I've chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. This is because he has forsaken me, worshipped Astarte, the goddess of the Sidonians, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's this symbolic, the prophet's always doing weird symbolic stuff. Look at this jar. I'm going to break this jar. Look, I'm nude. Look, I'm tearing your coat into 12 pieces. Can you put your clothes back on, please? No? Oh, you're tearing it up. Great. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically the 10 pieces are represent the 10 tribes of Israel, which would be the northern kingdom.
So Jeroboam, so what he's saying is Jeroboam is going to get to be king, even though he's just this day laborer guy.
Yeah, the prophet is like, hey, guess what? You're going to take over 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel. And Jeroboam is represented as rather humble, but Solomon finds out about this, and Solomon
you never want that. That's never any good.
Solomon not happy, but so he tries to kill Jeroboam. Jeroboam promptly flees to Egypt, to King Shishak of Egypt, and he remains in Egypt until Solomon dies.
Yeah,
and then Solomon's dead. Reigned in Jerusalem 40 years, slept with his ancestors, was buried in the city of his father David, and his son Rehoboam succeeded him. Now, Rehoboam, and here's the thing, there was never a single united kingdom. Scholars are pretty sure that Judah in the south and Israel in the north were originally separate kingdoms. And there would have been a time maybe where Israel might have subjugated the southern kingdom, or maybe the southern kingdom subjugated the northern kingdom, which is how it's represented in this text, which is, by the way, being written from the perspective of somebody who lived in the southern kingdom. Right. And so Rehoboam goes up to Shechem, which is the capital of the northern kingdom, for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. And then Jeroboam heard about it, and he comes back from Egypt, he stays in Egypt, and they call him, and they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the assembly of Israel came and said to Rehoboam, your father made our yoke heavy. So, Jeroboam is a forced laborer. Now, therefore, lighten the hard service of your father and his heavy yoke that he placed on us, and we will serve you. Basically saying, look, the northern kingdom, your dad was mean to us. If you will be nicer to us, we will happily be part of your kingdom.
Right. Chill out a little bit. let's be kind, rewind,
Yeah.
and maybe we can all get along.
And King Rehoboam took counsel with the older men who had attended his father Solomon while he was still alive, saying, "How do you advise me to answer the people?" So he's basically going to the elders, who were his dad's advisors, and they said, "If you will be a servant to this people and serve them and speak good words to them when you answer them, then they will be your servants forever." Then he went to the cool kids, the younger crowd.
Right.
And who grew up with him. So
the Stephen Millers of the world.
His friends. And he says, "What do you advise?" And they said, "Thus you should say to this people who spoke to you, your father made our yoke heavy, but you must lighten us for us. Thus you should say to them, my little finger is thicker than my father's loins."
Okay.
Which is
I'm going to assume that means what I think it means.
It does. He's holding up his pinky and going, this is bigger than my dad's Johnson.
Meaning, I suppose that like my dad was a wimp.
Yeah,
and because having a big schlong is it makes you stronger as a human, as a person, or something. Makes you more powerful as a man.
Yeah, the one with the bigger Schnitzengruben is the manner man. So he says, "My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions." So he liked the sound of that more than the elders' recommendation. That
I want to make it worse for these people rather than better.
Yeah, because
I gotta say, scorpions, I'd probably take a scorpion over a whip. Whips seem like they do like way more damage to
me. Because he wants to flex on him.
Yeah,
and that's the tendency.
And show off the girth of his little pinky.
Yeah. See that ring? That's like a 12. That's a 13. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as the king had said, "Come to me again the third day." The king answered the people harshly. He disregarded the advice that the older men had given him and spoke to them according to the advice of the young men. "My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions." And basically, they tried to kill him.
Yeah, it does seem like when he came face to face with the people, he skipped the little finger bit. So it sounds like he improvised a little bit in the moment.
Yeah. So
wimped out on that one.
He was like, I don't want to try that one out with this crowd. So, but he goes back to Jerusalem. He sends Adoram, who is the taskmaster over the forced labor, and he sent him up to Israel to basically say, "All right, come on, let's go." And they stoned him to death. And so, King Rehoboam then hurriedly mounted his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. So it's the explanation for how the two kingdoms that were always separate kingdoms came to be separate. So it's kind of an Aesop's fable for a people who kind of came up with this origin story that we were once a united kingdom and we got separated, and that is probably fiction. And it's being told from a Southern perspective because after the destruction of the Northern Kingdom, the Southern Kingdom kind of appropriated all their traditions and was like, "We're Israel now."
Right. And we've got the lineage of David.
Yeah. And the idea is, we were always Israel. The Northern Kingdom just rebelled against us. And that's why they got destroyed in 722 BCE.
Is there any archaeological evidence that Rehoboam and Solomon was Solomon a real person?
The scholars are a bit divided on that. I think there are those who would argue that David was probably a real leader of a dynasty. We do have the Tel Dan inscription.
I remember you talking about that.
Or the Tel Dan stele, no relation to Steely Dan. But that talks about how the Hazael, the Aramean killed somebody who would have been the part of the house of David. So that would have been a dynasty, not a kingdom, just a dynasty that occupied Jerusalem. And so it's certainly plausible that there was a historical Solomon. Relationship to David, unclear, because it tries to make David out to be Saul's, right-hand man initially.
Right.
And Saul then is trying to kill David, and David is a mercenary for the Phoenicians. Not Phoenicians. Oh my gosh, did I say Phoenicians? I'm having the worst time with with names. Oh my gosh. Who are the sea peoples? Oh gosh.
I can't help you.
Yeah.
Sorry. We've told that story. Go back and look in a back catalog. You'll get that story.
Yeah, you'll get that story. So anyway, a lot of these stories seem to be coming from centuries later, where people are just kind of dressing it up to serve their memory of this golden age, and so there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of fiction. So it's certainly possible. Rehoboam, Jeroboam, more likely probably, I think, than Solomon to be historical.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. But it's really about 100 years after that we get into a period where we can begin to archaeologically confirm these kings. So the Omride dynasty is where things really take off, and some scholars and that was probably the most successful ruling dynasty in Israel. And some scholars think that it is the memory of the Omrides that has been shifted to David to make it seem like David was really the one who expanded Israel the most, because we want the glory down in the south, down in Jerusalem, rather than in Shechem in the north.
Okay. Interesting. Well, there you go. Shechem if you got him. And we'll close it out there. If you would like to help us make this show go, please consider becoming one of our patrons over on patreon.com/dataoverdogma. You can just search it if you want to. Become a monthly subscriber, and you could get access to an early and ad-free version of every show, as well as access to our after party, which is a weekly. We just do it every week. It's bonus material. It's Dan and Dan at their best. A lot of the guests come in and say cool stuff. So you don't want to miss out on that. You want to be a part of it. So head on over there to Patreon and become a patron if you can. If otherwise, you can always leave us 5 stars anywhere that 5 stars are available to you, and you can, share us with your friends. That's always very helpful, and we really appreciate it. Thanks so much to Roger Gowdy for editing the show, and thanks to you for tuning in. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, everybody.
Data Over Dogma is a member of the Airwave Media Network. It is a production of Data Over Dogma Media, LLC, copyright 2025, all rights reserved.
What's something you learned in history class that you feel like wasn't the whole truth? Better yet, what's something you didn't learn at all that was omitted completely? That's what I like to call redacted history. My name is Andre White, the host of the Redacted History Podcast, the place where history's forgotten events, heroes, and villains get their story told, one episode at a time. The Redacted History Podcast. Real history never dies. Stream the Redacted History Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts.